jump scare. That was the word someone used to describe me in one of the first times I took off my mask for a video in middle school. Look, I can fit 4 or 5 fingers on your forehead was repeated to me constantly as well. So, I originally cut bangs to cover it up, and I'd wear a mask every day. And when I say every day, I seriously mean every single day. Even when COVID died down, I would still be wearing a mask. And people would ask me, why? And I'd reply, well, I just don't want to get sick again. But that was in fact not the case. I wasn't scared of germs or diseases, but I was scared of seeing my own face. Now, I'm sure this is an experience I'm sure some of you might relate to. Teenagers, adults, heck, everyone can be insecure. And at one point in our lives, we've looked at our bodies, our faces, and we thought to ourselves, why? Why is it that I look like this, but some other people, they can look like that? And the answer? There isn't one. A small nose, big lips, a tiny waist, big muscles, or even a sharp jawline, just to name a few. How are we expected to have all of those things? We're not customizable dolls. We're people. Which is why I'm standing here today to address the issue that all of you and all of us have chosen to overlook. Toxic beauty standards are the hungry bears we all fear to poke. A mirage, an impossible mold. That is what toxic beauty standards are. And the need to conform to all these standards or to attempt to perfect ourselves in a way is absolutely ridiculous. The bear might want us to cower in fear, to feed ourselves to it, to look at ourselves in a false reflection. But once we really look into the mirror, once we shoo away the bear, then can we really determine our own standards. Growing up, I never cared about how I looked or how I dressed or any of that stuff. I could just twirl to school in my Disney princess dresses, and I could run around in my Demon Slayer t-shirts. So, why did my appearance start mattering so much to me starting from middle school? I think we can all firstly agree that middle school was definitely an awkward time in all of our lives. It's when things really start changing and when fitting in really starts to matter. Turns out, there were just lots of things wrong with me. For starters, my nose was too big, my eyes were too small, and my forehead was too wide, and much, much more. I would wake up and I'd just run to the mirror every single day to check if I had suddenly looked better than yesterday. And when I did see my face again, I'd be met with shame and disappointment. And no one should feel that way. See, I wanted to look like the models I saw online. And nowadays, you can do just that. Things like getting double eyelid surgery, or getting fillers, or injections, or implants, or surgeries like permanently upturning your lips to keep you smiling forever are just a few of the many procedures of today. But beauty standards have always changed throughout history, from painful foot binding in China to lead powder used for pale white Victorian skin, to dieting, with literal tapeworms. Scrolling online nowadays, we can see many different forms of beauty. But it's important to note that beauty standards always change. Just like the things I mentioned earlier in history, beauty standards never stay the same. And we always go out of our way to harm ourselves for it. Whenever I'm scrolling through TikTok or Instagram or any of those apps, all I see is flawless skin, beautiful bodies, eye-catching faces, and they're all draped in luxury brand outfits. These types of things alter our perception of reality and really make us think, wow, these guys are seriously beautiful. And then when we look at ourselves, we think, oh my gosh, look at me. We've been conditioned to compare ourselves to something humans were never meant to achieve. Something that looks and is utterly perfect. You might see a common statement like, rate me from 1 to 10 while scrolling through social media. And we're so desperate to get an online beauty certificate that we forget why it's even important to have those things in the first place. And if you don't fit social media beauty standards, guess what? You might get some comments like these. Now, I'll step to the side and give you a short time to read them. Yes, take those in. They're awful and they're disgusting, right? Just seeing these things is so sad because they're just proof of how much toxic beauty standards have pretty much ruined us all. And you might think, well, you know, there's a solution to that. We can just sharpen our noses with TikTok filters and we can slim down with Facetune, right? No. Because these types of things completely alter our perception of reality. And they set unattainable, impossible standards for ourselves. And they not only lower our self-esteem, but they lower other people's as well. And who's really benefiting from that again? It's not us, for sure. You know, the Dove Self-Esteem Project conducted a survey in 2017, finding that 70% of the women interviewed felt there was too much emphasis on beauty for happiness. And PubMed Central Research found that 69% of adolescent males were unsatisfied with their bodies. But then, that raises another question. What even is beauty in the first place? Well, I'll tell you now. You can't define beauty for everyone, but you can define beauty for yourself. We all care way too much about what other people think of us and how we should appeal to society. But you have your own life and your own soul. You have your own character, your own way of expressing your wants and your likes and everything like that. And didn't I just say earlier that beauty standards always change? Society tends to tie beauty and self-worth into this one big awful mess. And the ones who are benefiting aren't us, but the brands, the advertisements, the companies, the medicines, and the sketchy social media ads, all behind it. They profit off making you feel insecure to make big, booming profits. I felt as if there was just a constant tricky mirror being shoved up my face. Felt that if I didn't look good enough, I was worth pretty much nothing. I'm here to tell you now that you don't need to confine yourself to a certain beauty standards. And I always looked at myself in the mirror every single day in middle school, and I kept asking myself the same questions over and over again. How do I change to look better? How do I glow up? How do I look like this? How do I yada yada yada? Like a bunch of those questions. Until one day, I came up with a new question. If one day, we all just woke up and we just didn't care about how we looked, didn't care about how we dressed, didn't care about how we seemed to other people, how much could change? A lot could. You see, wanting to look good isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it becomes a problem once good looking starts twisting into self-worth. There's more to us than just our outward appearances. And this stupid idea that how we look should be the most important thing in our lives is apparent in everyone. And it's not a good thing. The next time you see something promoting toxic beauty standards, you need to firstly put the phone down, secondly, breathe, and third, remember the line between reality and the bear's habitat. This issue is very apparent in adolescents my age as well. Because we're in the stages of our lives where things like confidence and self-perception are finally developing. But standards like this, they pretty much rewire our brains to think, wow, I have way too many flaws, and there's nothing else that's good about me. But that's wrong. We shouldn't rely on our looks for our self-worth, because if we're forced to limit our authenticity in fear of society looking down on us, then seriously, what is the point of having a community at all? As humans, we instinctively feel the need to follow the school. But we're just like fish in this case, and we're all swimming directly into the bear's mouth. It's important to ask yourself not how you can fit these standards, but to ask yourself why you do it, what you do it for, and is it really worth sacrificing ourselves and our health for? I say no. I'm now standing here today without wearing a mask, with bangs because it's a style I actually like, and without extreme fear of looking at my own face anymore. Over time, I started to ask myself the same questions I'm here asking you today. What was I doing it for, and for who? It's not because I changed how I looked, but because I realized that self-worth and beauty are two things completely separate. I didn't need everything that beauty standards told me I needed just to feel like I was worth something. Because the person who gets to decide that is me. Thank you very much for listening.